Welcome to this week's episode of The Art of Authenticity. I am here with Becca Stevens. She is a Grammy-nominated songwriter, a multi-instrumentalist, and a producer who came into my life in the funniest and oddest of ways. And we're going to share that story. We're going to talk about her story and journey into music, all that it's meant to her, how music and creativity might align to some of the things that I'm thinking about. But I'm very grateful to have you here. Thank you so much for joining.
It's a pleasure and an honor to be here. I'm so excited to talk with you and share it with whoever crosses our paths.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I'm just going to butt you out right out of the gate. Super humble, such a sweet person. I've had the honor of getting to know just over the last few weeks. But I mean, a Grammy-nominated artist. This is not somebody new to the craft. And so I just want to share with the audience that, you know, success is something that doesn't necessarily define our skills and abilities and how we show up in the world. But you're definitely coming from a place where you've taken creativity and worked at it as something that is a deep and massive part of your life. So I'm grateful for you to share with the audience some of the things you've learned and your journey. So this audience specifically is very interested in how we blend our passion, our authentic self with an ability to be successful at the same time. And I think with the arts, that can be really challenging. So again, thank you very much for for coming on and sharing.
Yes, that rings all my bells. I've the first thing that came to mind when you're talking about the marriage between authenticity and success is the Buddhist quote about loving the process. Like the if you enjoy what you do, then you are truly successful. And my relationship to that is also relishing in the slowness of the process of being an artist that's coming from authenticity and constantly redefining and falling off or maybe I should say like throwing people off the horse, because when an artist is being authentic, then chances are you've never seen what they're doing before, because there has never been a them before. And so you're asking your audience to constantly have to like redefine their idea of what art is in order to metabolize what you're creating. And sometimes it takes beyond that artist's lifetime to be successful.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like it's only in their dying that people are like, oh, I missed that weird thing that they were doing.
Right? Or it dies with them. And I think this is again another interesting way in which philosophy and spirituality overlaps, right? So much of this work, people die with their thoughts and perspectives not being shared, and some do, and it's a little bit of a who knows, give it up to the universe. Before we get into all that, though, I want to just to take the listeners just back for a heartbeat and hear, have you always been in the arts? Have you known since you were little, that this was a calling, a passion? I think you mentioned you started young with your mom. What got you to this place that it's a full-on career at this point? What age did that begin? And were there any times when you quit and were like, I'm not doing this. I've got to get a different job or quote a real job, right? I think artists struggle with that part of like how to pay the bills and find that way of making it sustainable.
This is a long story and a short one. And the long and short of it is, I was born into a very musical family. We were already a band before I was born. So before I could walk or talk, I was in a bassinet on the stage while they were performing my dad's songs to children. And then I grew up in that environment. We were performing at schools and summer festivals, and sometimes were often it would be like the first act was a musical that my dad had written for us to perform, and then the second half was our Tune Mammals was the name of the band. You can look it up. It's on Spotify and all your streaming platforms. Um, so Tune Mammals, we performed like witty, humorous children's songs, mostly on the East Coast, a little bit around the country. And, you know, while that's it's awesome. A lot of really long I was looking to see if I have a picture within reaching distance of the 2 mammals. There's something close by, but I think it's around this corner. Um, but yeah, a lot of really long van rides, we even made a movie when I was 5 or 6 years old that was like a feature-length film called Boyd's Shadow that won the Parents' Choice Award. I mean, I was just, like, very I was very surrounded in a very rich musical environment from a young age. I had no idea what direction I wanted to take all of that until I was 16. And before that, I was like, is it theater that I like the most? Is it dance? Is it, at one point, I was sure I wanted to work at the zoo just so I could hang out with monkeys at the time. And then at 16, I started to study randomly um, classical guitar. I say randomly because I was scrambling to to find a major that. Let me be clear. North Carolina School of the Arts I knew was the school that I wanted to go to, and getting a classical guitar major was just like kind of the only choice at that time. And through studying the classical guitar, I had this awakening of like, oh, music is more than enough. It doesn't have to be all this like myriad of other things that I'm interested in, all piled on top of each other. Music is an entire world on its own, and also I love to make my own music. So I studied classical guitar for 2 years, took a year off to sing in a band with my brother and teach at a daycare, and then moved to New York, where I studied voice and composition at the New School for Jazz Studies here in New York. I'm saying here, even though now I'm in New Jersey, living in Princeton. But I was there for 20 years. Stuck around, started a band coming out of college called the Becca Stevens Band, and then have also been a very avid collaborator, both singing with people and writing for people, etc.
Beautiful. Thank you, thank you, thank you for that. And I mean, I've interviewed so many people on this podcast, and I've asked them about this question of having an authentic career. And I have to say, you're one of like less than five that knew young at that level that this is what they wanted. So many people, get down that success trajectory, realize, at least 5, 10 years in a micro midlife crisis or a massive like midlife crisis later, like, oh my God, my life isn't what I want. So that's really beautiful. And I love it. And I think upbringing has been the consistent theme where there's parents who are open to them exploring their gifts rather
Yeah.
than dictating sort of a path. So I guess I love the long and the short. It's very beautiful, and I appreciate you sharing that. I'd love to jump into this conversation of how we met.
Yes.
And I'll share a little from my perspective, and then I'll let you jump in with yours. Um, but I have to say that, like, the serendipitous quality of my life goes up exponentially the more I've been focused on spirituality, on the ideas of spirituality. I think I've just started paying more attention, or perhaps it just increases. I'm not sure, right? That feeling like, oh my God, I was just thinking of you. And then a friend called. Oh my God, I liked it. Oh my God. And, that feeling that I used to dismiss and say, whatever, it doesn't mean anything. Maybe I'm taking it more seriously. Maybe it increases. I can't tell you, but I can say this. I never go in my Instagram direct messages. I don't really consume very much social media. And I guess there's this area for requests, and I guess within there, there's like some people who reach out, and
Mhm.
you had sent a request with this really loving, beautiful note. And I don't know what inspired me to check that day, but something within me, and I think it's that my sensitivity to being aware of arising feelings of curiosity and like knowings has gone up
Hmm.
because you get out of the mind and you find there's this entire world of self that lives in the heart around you, whatever. So I don't know, it was this like, gotta check my direct message Instagram. And I go in and there's this beautiful note and I was like, wow, this is so sweet. And I felt compelled to answer right away, which again, not really like me. So we ended up in this lovely exchange and only to find out that you're going to be in Chicago 2 days later, 20 minutes from my house. Again, the odds of that are infinitesimally small. Um, and so I went and we met each other. And I know there's more to the story, but I'll just say that from there, this really beautiful conversation started around your connection to the work I'm doing and potential ways that we could talk and collaborate and what it meant. And I don't know, just spontaneously evolved from there. But um, do you want to share your
Yes.
version?
Yeah, totally. And to just add that I had not played at the space in Evanston for 6 years or something like that. So yeah, the infinitesimally small chance that I would have been there again 2 days after you checked was it's not even just like a yearly thing. It was like I hadn't been there for a really long time. Um, and and also when you get an instinct to do something and you put it off for a few months and then you finally just pull the trigger and do it, that was what I felt like in sending that message to you too. So it was the perfect timing on my end as well, I guess. Um, and leading up to it, I had been, I'll give a little bit of backstory to your audience that being on the road can be horribly like isolating and untethered feeling. I have two little babies, a 1.5-year-old and a 3.5-year-old, and it's always been hard to be out on the road, especially solo. But now being away from a family, it's just like I'm craving the intake of something to ground me, and so I'm often on podcasts trying to find something and not even knowing really what I'm looking for. Um, and I had this switch go off when I stumbled upon you on someone else's podcast. You were talking, and I was like, here we go. This is what I need to be listening to while I'm traveling, before a show, after a show, falling asleep, first thing in the morning. This is grounding me. And the host of that podcast read your key aloud or asked you to read your key. You read your key in that podcast, and I jotted it down. This was your key to open the Akashic records.
Yeah.
And this was very new to me. I had spoken to one other friend who said she um, writes music from the records. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. That sounds like a really cool way to get out of your own way, to just like be a vessel or an instrument for something that's greater than you, which is what I'm trying to do anyway. So that was really interesting to me. And so you shared this key, and I immediately wrote it down on a sheet of paper, stuck it in my pocket, read it every free second I had. I was just looking down at this and trying to memorize it. And as a songwriter, the natural next step for me was to hear a melody in my head to go along with it. And the melody poured out really effortlessly. But in the back of my head, my critical mind, which if we maybe we'll get into this in this conversation, but in the songwriting process, there's this dance that happens between the muse, which is like, you know, energy pouring through, and then the critical mind, which is like, no, 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 and shutting it down. monk's mind, whatever you want to call it.
Sure. Yeah.
And so the critical mind was saying, Laura didn't say you could do it this way, or like you're not supposed to put a melody. This is against the rules. And so in that moment I was like, well, maybe I'll write her one day and I'll look through her website or through Instagram or something, and I'll like write her one day and ask her what she thinks about this. And that I didn't get around to doing that for 2 months. And I couldn't believe that you wrote back. And then I extra couldn't believe that you were like, I'm curious to hear the melody. I was like, what? So I left it for you
Yeah.
in the DMs. And then that kind of like opened up more conversation that you were alluding to. It's just, yeah, it was like, I couldn't believe that it was happening and that you were there then 2 days later at the show. It blew my mind.
Right. I mean, it's stuff like this that, again, I used to just kind of move past and say, like, oh my God, that's so crazy, and then not care. Right.
Yeah.
Now I see it as the guideposts of my life. That it's a yes. Like, okay, there's something here. I got myself into tons of trouble because I started to say yes, and it must mean something back to the mind, right? Like the
Right.
mind hooks onto it and says, oh, then this is going to be this or that. And you try to put context in when it hasn't played out yet. So I do find that navigation between the muse that you're talking about being the vessel and allowing the muse to come through, and the monkey mind plays out in the spiritual world, the philosophical world all the time, right? As well. It's what I teach with the Akashic records. How do we like lessen the grip of the mind so we can allow the information to flow through? What I taught with authenticity. How do you get to your truth? How do you know what's true in your body? You have to release the mind a little bit, right? Meditation. There's so many practices that require it. Um, and then, omens happened and serendipitous things happened. And then it's like, here we are again, putting the mind back on it and trying to put a container as to what it should be or how it's going to play out. And of course, we don't know, right? So, I love that we lovingly just kind of flowed with it. That was what was really alive for me, was kind of these micro yeses that just kept sort of unfolding into these beautiful next things. So thank you for sharing that. And putting music to the key, I just want to make sure the listeners understood. There's this set of sentences that opens up the Akashic record, and she had written it down and to keep it in your mind so you could use it without having to pull it up. You created a bit of a melody so it's easier to keep in your mind. And so, of course, I wanted to hear that. And I love that you're like, oh my God, maybe this is against the rules, So it's super cute.
And I'll add I think the funniest part was that in that podcast, you didn't mention the closing, like how to close the records sentence. Like that's in the document that you get when you download it off your website. But I was on the road and everything just happened in that order. So I had between when I first listened to that podcast and when I met you in Evanston months later, I had left it flapping open for that entire time. It was just open.
I love it. I love it. And you're still alive and nothing happened. You didn't break.
Yeah. And I still barely ever close it.
So I came to Evanston, and you graciously asked me to come backstage. And if it's okay, I'd love to share.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Um, I mean, I thought that was just such a fun idea to come backstage and say hi, a performing artist, and fun.
Well, it was selfish because I don't like to go out before I perform. There's like so many different energies, and sometimes I'll see people that I didn't know were there, or I just get like really sucked in, and I like to stay super focused and insular. But I knew from listening to hours of your voice online that your energy would feel very welcome. So I was like, obviously, come back.
So sweet. And so I did, and the thing I wanted to share with the audience that was sort of part two, and I just want to invite everybody into this conversation of how, I don't know, when you don't try, what actually magically happens, and how much of life can happen without needing to put that effort in a sense, if you're just like willing to like let go of the little egoic moments over and over and over. So I came and I came backstage and you said, do you have a meditation that you think would be helpful before I go on? And I remember just this feeling of yes, like instant clarity. It's not like really like me. I didn't have to like pause. I didn't have to reflect. I didn't have to like think through all the meditations. I have so many of them. I just said, yep, this is the one. And I remember this calm in my body. It was like an absolute stillness. I guess I could equate it to a moment of awe when you see a beautiful sunrise and you just pause. You have to like take it in, and you seem to quiet everything to allow for that. Or I don't know, going out to the beach and just letting the air blow on you and that feeling of ease that happens. But there was something where everything in me just went completely still. And I thought, yep, I do. And I didn't even know what I meant. And I started to talk, and you closed your eyes, and the words were just flowing without me seemingly thinking about it. And I saw little tears coming down your face. And afterwards, you said, that's the meditation that my mother used to use when we were on tour. And I thought, what the hell? Like, what the hell, I mean, and I don't know what to make of the moment. And I mean, obviously, as the ego comes back online, I could say, oh, well, maybe it was this and maybe, that, or wow, crazy again. But forgetting all that, I just want to honor the beauty of that moment and how special that is that when I release the need to control situations, how much more is available to flow through us as those instruments that are receiving when the mind is a little quieter.
I'm glad you brought up this part of the story because it really was the icing and the cherry. Um, so there's so many little pieces around this. I don't think I told you till the next day because it was just like too much in that moment. I was like about to go on stage to sing, and I was just like, oh my God. And the first piece is that this was at the very end of a season of touring a record where all of the songs were written through the process of me grieving her loss. And we had a very complex relationship, as everyone does with their mother, with their parents. And the the last time that I was with her for an extended period of time was when I was 10 years old, 10, 11 years old, and we were on tour performing The Secret Garden. It was an off-Broadway national tour, and we did this for a year. It rehearsed for 3 months in Chicago, and um, and her two best friends from that production were in the audience that night in Evanston, and I've only seen them twice since this whole thing happened. So it was like they know me as like a 10-year-old kid, and they were there that night. And this meditation that you channeled, if I can say that, um it was exactly the meditation that was our ritual before we went on stage every night, in order to like, because I'd be all excited and nervous, and then we'd bring the energy down through my feet and only let positive energy in, and there's the bubble of light or whatever. um maybe maybe people want to know, you can put it in the notes of your podcast. And also, she used to call me at 11:11 every Sunday because her father had a stroke around that same time, when I was around 11 or 12 years old. He had a stroke and lost his ability to tell a lot of things, including time, and he retrained that part of his brain by every time it was 11:11 on the clock, he asked the nurses to come in and tell him so he could like relearn numbers starting with 1. And the day of that show was 11:11.
Right. I
There
forgot
were
that.
so many things like that.
I just got goosebumps. Yeah, I forgot that part.
Yeah, so it
Yeah.
really felt like I would be crazy not to think that. Oh, and also I smelled her perfume when we started. I don't know what that was about.
I don't know. I
And
don't
that
know.
kind of stuff never happens to me.
Yeah.
the sensory. I'm more emo when it comes to intuition, like music and emotion, but sensory, like smelling something, that kind of thing never happens to me.
Yeah. So we'll leave it there for the audience,
Yeah.
right? Like
Yeah.
just take it in, guys, like the beauty of that, right? So here we are sitting with all of these things happening. I've only been in contact with you for a matter of a couple of days.
At that point, yeah.
And so again, my philosophy, people ask me all the time, how do I live an authentic life, Laura? What does it look like? Da, 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 da. And I just want to share this story because I think it's an example of that process, right? Of just saying yes repeatedly, consistently, and letting it play out the way it needs to, in a sense. And I think we both kept showing up, and that's why it worked. Obviously, if one of the two doesn't, it won't. And I suppose
Or it
that's free
will
will.
in a different way.
Yeah, something else will happen.
Yeah.
Um, so all of that's happening in a couple days, and we then start sending these text messages back and forth. In part, you were curious about the records and had some questions about how to continuously get the information, bring it down, use it potentially for music. And I offered to give you a reading, which doesn't seem as important to share from my perspective, but this question of creativity and spirituality and this line, in my opinion, was what started to intrigue me as we were going further and further into this conversation, which ultimately led to you so graciously and lovingly offering to create music for this relaunch of the Art of Authenticity, which, guys, if you're wondering what that lovely music is at the beginning and outro, it's her and it's just stunning. And we'll talk about that. But Becca, I'd love to hear your thoughts on, as a lifelong creative, as somebody who wakes up every day and your job is to allow this creative aspect of your life to make it into the world in various ways. And as you said, there's the monkey mind, there's anxieties, there's all these different things. We are human. Um, I want to talk about it from the spiritual perspective, but maybe you could begin with when you said you're a vessel and allowing this to come through, what does that mean to you outside of spirituality as a musician? People are always thinking about authenticity, allowing the truth, the authentic self to come forward. In this case, bringing the authentic with the music within you. What does your process look like? How do you do that on a regular basis? What are the struggles that get in the way of that?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, yeah.
What a great and massive
Question.
I do this to people. We can start with
No, it's good. It's really good. It's my favorite place to be. Um, I will start with a quote from David Crosby, who was a dear friend of mine. I could call him family. We were in his lighthouse band together, and he is at the very top of my list of folks that I've written the most with. Um, he always used to say, like one of his introductions to one of the songs that we wrote together is that um, the muse is always there, and you can swap out the word muse with inspiration or connectedness. If you're thinking about meditation, like that sort of buzzing kind of being in the flow, right? So that's like the goddess, the muse of that, of inspiration and creativity. She's always there. She never leaves. She's she's there. She's space. She's light. She like doesn't go anywhere. We think sometimes as artists mistakenly that, you know, songs only come to me when I have a broken heart or when I'm down and out. And then during the happier parts of my life, I don't think to write a song or oh, I'm having a 5 years long writer's block or something. That is not her fault. the muse is always there. It's our job to remember to stop and open the door and let in whatever she's trying to tell you. Um, and so another thing that he always said, and now I always say, it was serve the song. And so I'm going to bring these two things together with an exercise, which then I'm sure will be very easy to apply to your work because it seems that our work is intrinsically connected. Um, which is that oftentimes when the muse seems like it's not there, it's because you've gotten in the way with your own neuroses or doubts or fill in the blank. And that tends to come from the critical mind. So that's the part of the mind that's afraid, that thinks there's no difference between you finishing this song or walking in front of traffic because either one is the unknown. And it thinks if you finish this song and share it in front of other human beings, you'll die.
Yeah.
Because it's like it can't tell the difference.
Yep.
So that part of the brain is blocking you. And it's your job to figure out how to wrangle that part in a loving way and to reset from the me, like, what is this person going to think of me? Am I doing a good job? Am I doing a bad job? Me. To reset that self-centered kind of neurotic and negative badgering, and to reset it into, wait a second. Oh, I remember. My job is to serve the song. I'm just a body that the energy that the muse is delivering is coming through me. And how can I shape it just with my being me and then send it out in the most authentic way that I can. And then sometimes I could go on and on. Maybe I should pause.
No, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. I love that. And do you have like a practical, like, okay, so there's somebody out there who is in that struggle, right? And whether it's music or anything, right? We do this to ourselves. I remember sending my first blog out and I had switched from healthcare entrepreneur to doing this work. And I was looking at this, there was a big red button in MailChimp, the mail server, and a little monkey's hand was going to push down on this red button and the monkey would sweat. And it was like, this is how the image they chose to send it. I'm like, that's just evil as a company. But anyways,
What?
I had to hit send and I went to hit send and my entire body was, you're going to die. You're going to die. It literally, and there's just no more truth that you can know about the world than to hear those words you just said. It equates. I mean, I am safe. I'm in my house. I'm perfectly fine. I'm not going to die. But my body's like, you will die. This is going to happen. So, I have a bunch of tips I've shared. Do you have anything that you do to help bring you back, wrangle it in?
Yeah, depending on maybe the most obvious place that I practice it is on the stage because that's kind of the most terrifying where you're like, if I mess this up, life ends now, and your hands are shaking and there's no way to be perfect. So something that I do, I'll give you three things for that moment. One is to open your eyes, because oftentimes when you're nervous on stage, your instinct is to like not make eye contact, not look up, maybe not even open your eyes. So open your eyes, look and see that it's just a bunch of human beings that used to be babies. They like started out as babies and they're not that different than they were when they were little kids. Everybody's still just a little kid in an adult body. So looking out and seeing people just as these human beings that used to be babies and aren't that different. And they are there because mostly they want you to succeed because they either knew you and came to see you do your best, or they've never heard of you before. And truth be told, only 20% of them probably in that moment are even paying attention to what's happening. Like even in this conversation, I adore you. and I am like about as present as I could be as a human. But even in our conversation, there have been little moments where my brain went, oh, what do I have to do at 5 p.m. today? Like, this is just how our brains work, you know? So imagine if you're going to a show, you're at the end of a long work day and somebody's you're not taking in like every second of everything that they're doing. And so that's an important thing to remember too, as a performer, that nobody is hearing you at the level that you're expecting yourself to perform. No one. And it would be crazy to think that somebody would be catching all the little things that I'm worried about.
I love that. I love it. It's really funny. Somebody just said to me this week, I feel like we're all just little kids. Um, Everybody is just little kids. Like literally the way you just said it was just spoken to me a couple days ago. I'm like, what are the odds of hearing that twice? Well, thank you for sharing that. And I do think it is the how do I say this? The opportunity to bring information through us and then managing the complexity of the mind is the challenge of life. And enlightenment is only when we are able to do that more and more effectively until we really can quiet it most of the time or have at least enough tools and practices to keep coming back or to really know it's not true, right? It's not a deep thing to be enlightened other than to just let the mind go, right? So So you're bringing music through, you find the Akashic record. How do you see this system or ecosystem in relation, or why is this important to you? What is it that you're considering when you think of um, that vehicle in the creative work? Yeah.
I was first and foremost, I was ready for it, hungry for um my artistic process feels like an onion that keeps peeling back and peeling back. There's no center. It just keeps going and going and going and going. Like there's no oh, I found my approach and it's going to be like this for the rest of my life. And coming out of the last record where everything was like, I'm going like spelunking in my grief and just without shame, I'm gonna hit this honestly. And the sort of like the fear around that it's too much or too honest or too personal or too me, you know, and then accepting the fact that that is a pathway into authenticity. And through that, on the other side, there's a new chapter that I could see even before I was there. Then got to the point where playing these songs about my mom didn't hurt anymore. And I could see other people crying, but I wasn't crying anymore. And then on the other side of that was this thing that I could like taste and feel, but was very hard to put to words. And that was where I was looking for you from, if that makes sense. So I'm like, there's another way to create where I am not muscling and like it's like not blood, sweat, and tears, but it's like letting through that same voice of authenticity without feeling like I'm carrying it alone, you know?
Yeah.
And and in that search, I was definitely getting a sense that it was more of a spiritual process. And it was in experimenting with opening up the records and then conversations in messages with you, and then especially writing the theme music for you, where you so generously gave me the permission to experiment with what it would be like to open your records and then write from that place. And I was like, this is life-changing, because all these little instincts that I had, I mean, it's not that it's so different from what I was doing before, but it was like so much more specific and clear and validating that I'm like, opening something up and then trusting and getting these very clear signals rather than just being like more of a effervescent, like the muse is here. It was more like, oh, I'm hearing something very clearly, and then I'm like sending an idea to you and you're validating that. It was like having you there to like validate this triangle of energy was like life-changing for me. I don't know if I'm doing a very good job describing that.
A beautiful job. It's very hard to describe, right? And
Yeah.
yeah, no, you're doing a beautiful job. And I mean, I wrote my first book without the records, and it was the struggle bus. It's back to what you were saying. That piece you were said so funny. You were like, me, 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 me,
Mm-hmm.
me. I just was in constant, uh, I don't know, conversation with and conflict with this like persona of self that would just drive me crazy. It's like sitting down to write, and it's like, oh, there it is again, like being critical. And like, I know and I'm aware, but here it is nonetheless. And I have to contend with it and
Yeah.
back and forth and back and forth. And then you let it through, you let the creativity through. I wrote the book or whatever. But then I started to write with the records, and this thing happened. And it's hard to describe.
It's hard to put words. Yeah.
But there's a way in which energetically validating is how you put it. I can feel that. I think it's something people need to try for themselves. I don't know that you can explain it perfectly. It's the reason that I suggest people open the records. I have that free program because I think it's like saying, really tell me what chocolate ice cream is like if you've never had ice cream or chocolate. It's like I can't go past a point. You have to go try it yourself, right?
But as a songwriter, I want to try. Yeah. So I'll give you one anecdote for anyone that's like, what are they talking about? So once I'm right here. Picture me right here doing takes, doing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 takes. Takes is like when you have the music there and then you try a vocal idea over the top and then you try another one, another one, another one, another one. And in my mind, I'm just like, okay, do another one, do another one, do another one. And then whatever, 30 minutes later, I sit down and I'm editing and I'm listening to the takes to see which one feels right. So already it's instinct, intuition, right? But you can really get into your head in that process and be like, I don't know, should it be this kind of vibe or this kind of vibe, And so I was like, well, what would it be like if I edit from the records? And it was like night and day. Like what normally I would get obsessed with being right or wrong, I was just like, I'm going to open up the records and then just kind of listen to what happens in my body. And then I had a little journal and had a rating system, and without overthinking anything, I would just get like a really clear green light or a really clear red light. Just listening, I knew from listening from your records, I knew like this resonates with the right energy. This is not the correct energy.
Yep.
Does that help?
100%. And I mean, so what I teach at the Little Soul School is the mind is all about being right or wrong. And you need to do deep listening, right? And we listen to somewhere deep within us, but we have to do it by pausing the mind, right? By dropping in somewhere. And that's exactly the process. But that is really, really, really hard. It's really hard. And so you can meditate and do yoga and chant and all these different things. And they're wonderful. They really are. But the reason I got hooked on the records was because it was just so much easier and so much faster to drop to that place of pure listening. We all do it. We go on a walk, you're stuck on an idea. It's like, I don't know. Go for a walk and you went, oh my God, it just came to me. I just got it, right? I just had that moment, or somebody says something, or you read a book, or you talk to a therapist or something, and you have that moment of, oh, oh, there it is. I feel like this is the system that exponentially has increased my ability to find that, oh, yes, without grappling so much with the mind coming back online, going, are you sure? Maybe. I don't know. Is that right?
Yeah.
Do other people disagree? Blah, 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 blah. So, what I love, Becca, about what you're saying is through the musical creative process in your own journey, you're looking at this and it literally matches the exact same system I use to teach people how to access the records. They come in, me, 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 me. How do I know? How do I not know? Am I in the records? Am I not in the records? Is this the records? I don't know if this is the records. Da, 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 da. And I say one thing to them, drop in, when you're dropped in, you'll find it. Like, let go of the mind. Stop trying to be right. Stop trying to be wrong. It's okay. That's what the mind does. But then there is this moment where they systematically can go there repeatedly with way less noise, way
It's
less.
the same thing. Like I've been I have been teaching this for 5 years without knowing that it connected to this other work. Like I've been teaching this, everybody wants a clear answer of how to get through writer's block, of how to write this song, of like what do I do to get better at harmony or rhythm, da, 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 da. It all comes back to, well, what is the intention of your song in this moment? And how do you better serve this song? How do you drop into the song? How do you drop into the phrase? How do you drop into the project and serve it? It's so simple and it feels so complicated in the moment because our mind's desire to control is everything. And it's important. Like as the I don't know how this relates to you, and I'm curious if it lights something up, but as an artist, the artist's voice is kind of in the edit, like the artist's persona, the like um Janis Joplin's, I'm thinking of her because you mentioned her in one of our conversations, like her artistry is fluid and inspired, but her artistry comes through in how she shapes things and how her entity shapes things. And it's similar, like when you're writing, that critical mind is the one that's editing, and that's where your voice comes through. So it's such an important part, but it can't drive the bus or you lose everything.
That's right. And that's the point, right? It's like we do need the mind. We don't want to be without it. It's just
Right.
putting it in the right relation, right? It works for me, and the me it works for is I believe what you're saying to be true of every minute of every life. There's an energy of muse, whatever you want to call it. You put it so
Yeah.
beautifully, so we'll use that. Creativity, flow, inspiration, God, however you think of it. But the authentic self, it wants to come through and flow through. And the mind is there to put it into the world effectively. It needs to work for that, though, not the other way around. And when the mind is the one in control, it reduces the energetic flow until it's still there. To your
Yeah.
points earlier, it's just not apparent because your attention isn't focused on allowing that energy to flow. Your attention is focused to the mind, right? So
Mhm.
we think thoughts, we're aware of them, and we bring our attention to it. So that attention is either to this arising energy of, I think I should go on Instagram and check my direct messages, or my attention is somewhere else and in this right and wrong thinking mind, which it's helpful if I need to make a plane ticket reservation. That's lovely. But if I'm trying to allow life to happen, it's terrible. It's the worst. It's the worst thing to help you organize life and everything around it.
Half a million people in the past, present, and future are pressing the rewind button right now to re-listen to what you just said because it was so profound. Oh, yeah. Including me. I can't wait to listen to that again.
Oh, thank you, thank you, thank you. Um, I heard somebody say to me that Michael Jackson used to run to the studio and say, I've got to
Yeah.
grab this because if I don't, Prince is going to. And he'd run to the studio because the greatest artists are aware that the creative stuff is out there. Rick Rubin wrote that book on it, and it's just it wants to come into existence, and it'll come through you or somebody else. And this thing you've said over and over, though I don't want to push past, each of us are an instrument, and when it comes through the instrument of Laura, it will come through in one way, through Becca, another. You
Yeah.
might use a guitar, and I might use a pen. I might use my voice to speak it. I might use the written word. But you may use music to deliver it, and somebody else might do it in a fifth way. But it wants to make its way into the world. And I think that part is just not to be underestimated. It's there. It's always there. People say, Laura, how do I connect to the Akashic field? It's there. It's there. Creativity, it's available.
Hmm.
systematically learning how to let go and not need. I used to think when I write, oh my God, I need to be at the perfect table in the right mood with the right scene, look at the right things, like be in the, that's absolute bullshit. It's not true. It's always there. I can always write. I just have to give myself the space to disconnect from the mind and trust. Becca, wouldn't you say? It's trust that it's going to flow instead of making it happen, that it's, I think it is, I think we are creative flow in motion.
You just said the word, you took the word right out of my mouth. I was just saying yesterday in my telephone therapy call, I was like walking in the woods and talking to my therapist about how connecting intuition with my art feels both like it's always been connected, it's never been different, and it also feels like this leap of faith, and that the only way to like bridge the gap of fear is to focus on the word trust.
Trust, leap of faith.
And to trust that the word trust is the right thing to do. Like there's just like trust on trust on trust. Because you're like, what am I doing?
Right.
Why would I relinquish control? That goes against everything that I've been taught to do with my human body.
But the I that says, why would I release control, is the I that's ruining the creative flow, right? So that I is the mind, and it's a disaster. So the true I doesn't ask that question. The one that's dropped in doesn't need to let go because it's always in a state of complete relinquishing of control, right? It's available. And it's that recursive discussion of I that I think is the tragedy of all creative flow. Becca, do you feel like with the community that you run in, the artists, that this is the consistent challenge that they're facing of how to find that next creative moment to release those fears? Do some just have a lighter energy around it, and that's where so much of it comes from? Like, what's the intersection of hard work, um, uh, discipline, and letting go?
This conversation about trust and not resisting the flow of inspiration from the muse, etc. All the stuff we've been talking about is not common, particularly in the like music school adjacent music world. Like pedagogy and people who went to a music institution and now they're out in the world sharing their music, and they're getting stuck and they don't know why they're getting stuck, and their brain's instinct is, oh, I'm getting stuck because I learned something wrong, or I'm doing something wrong, or I'm
Not working hard enough.
yes, me. And so I have all kinds of different online teaching courses that I offer where I'll any level, any age, any genre, whatever, people can come through and we spend 5 weeks and write songs and then share them with each other. And the idea of getting out of the way of the muse and having fun and being playful and curious and being in flow, it's like it's foreign. It's like even to somebody who has practiced it already, like there's this constant reminder. It's sort of like, how to meditate, and then you have a bad day and it feels like you have to remind yourself every 10 seconds or 5 seconds or 2 seconds to shut up and listen, you know? It's the same kind of thing where it's just like it feels like we're all like, oh yeah. Like we've all taken mushrooms together or something, and we're like, oh yeah, this is how you find a song. Why did I forget again? And so I would say that, yeah, to answer your question, it's like it's not normal to come at it this way, and it feels like I feel that the direction that I'm headed in right now is to be a mascot for that, for myself and for other people.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Well, thank you so much for sending that DM, for following up, for creating this absolutely like stunning music for the show. I'm obsessed. I love it. She sent it over. I was like, oh my God, that's a hell yes for me. So I appreciate it. The listeners, if you're listening and you're just, maybe you need a little like vibe, just listen to the beginning and end and check that out. Thank you for sharing your story, your perspective. If people want to connect to you, I know you have a website and Spotify, but is there somewhere specific that people can find you?
Website is great. If any social thing I use the most is Instagram, probably. I'm on there once a week or something. But yeah, website has email addresses that you can reach me through as well.
BeccaStevens.com, yeah?
Yeah.
Perfect. All right. Well, thank you so much, you guys. Check out her music. It's gorgeous. She tours and has these classes you can take. Everything's on her site. Thank you so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate it.
I appreciate it more than you know. Thank you so much for sharing me with your folks. I appreciate it so much.
Thank you.